Welcome to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. The Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Bringing you the latest from the world of daily fantasy sports and gambling, so you can stop Googling how to join a squid game to cover all those parlays you thought were such a sure thing. Now, sit back and listen to one of the sharpest minds in the game. Here's your host, Dwayne Callender.
Sunday fun day, people. Let's get after it. It is week 18, which means lots of bench people playing today because the starters for the teams that are actually good are going to be resting. Unless you're the Cowboys and you risk trying to injure your own players for no apparent reason. You know, the Cowboys last night did something that was so egregiously dumb that somehow they weren't punished for it. And they're still likely to get eliminated in the first round next week. I just found it hilarious. I don't know what momentum you could possibly build beating up on practice squad players, but apparently the Cowboys thought it was a good idea, so Dak threw for 5 touchdowns yesterday. You know, I was wrong. I thought the Cowboys would apply logic, and instead they did the dumbest thing imaginable and got away with it. But, you know, that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the Sunday games we have here today. And yeah, just a bunch of ugly matchups. So let's get right down to it. We got Minnesota and Chicago, nothing to play for here. And both coaches are at risk of getting fired after the game. Matt Nagy, we all know he's not coming back. Mike Zimmer might get fired as early as tomorrow as well. The Bears 6-10, the Vikings 7-9. Minnesota's favored by 2.5 at home. Realistically, you got Kirk Cousins saying that he didn't need the vaccine even though he tested positive. I mean, he would have made the game last week if he had the vaccine. Listen, I'm not even going to get into it. It's just the dumbest thing he possibly could have said after costing his team. Even though I still think they would have lost to the Packers last week, it's not as though I think you would have gotten much difference with Kirk Cousins playing in that Sunday Night Football game. It's just a dumb thing to say after you are the one who missed the game by not following the protocols that everyone else on the team did primarily and was able to make the game. So whatever. With that being said, I think all the starters are playing here, and so that means Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson should be in play. Now, the weather, I mean, let's be honest here. This game, I don't have as much of a interest in it just because, you know, it's a division game still. They could play each other tough. So I'm not going to go as crazy about trying to jam in these fellas just because it's a little bit harder to make it work, in my opinion. You know, not for nothing. We could try to force it in, but I don't think it's necessary. And then just from a practicality standpoint, Justin Jefferson needs, I believe, 128 yards, I think, to break Randy Moss's single season record for the Vikings for receiving yards. You know, it's very doable. Don't get me wrong. But the other thing that could kind of hamper him also is the fact that Akeem Hicks is out for the Bears and Dalvin Cook should crush. But I know Mike Zimmer has already gone on record saying he doesn't believe in playing rookies. He believes this is a regular season game. He believes rookies playing should be in the preseason. So he's going to treat this like a regular season game and just go all out, even though they have nothing to play for. In his mind, they're going to play hard. That just tells me that Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson should factor in heavily in this game because there's no Thielen. He should be out again. The Bears, again, are lacking Akeem Hicks. Again, I want folks to understand, Saquon Barkley barely got to 100 yards because the Giants had to run him out there. Dalvin Cook could get to 100 by the end of the first quarter. I want people to understand this. So again, I'm tired of talking about the Giants, and we'll have to get to them later. But it to me, it's pretty. I think it's pretty straightforward. Uh, with the Vikings, you can play them on the Bears side. This Vikings defense isn't any good, so yeah, David Montgomery can get there. Darnell Mooney, I think, can get there with Dalton behind center, throwing the ball. I think it's in the dome. There's no reason to think that this doesn't have the potential to shoot out if the Vikings do try to go get the scoring, because like the over unders at 40 is at 44. It's a low total. I think this can easily go over. Just being honest, there's not a lot to like on this slate. So just kind of bear that in mind, folks, when we kind of do this from a DFS perspective. There's not a whole lot of options to go to. So you got to cross off certain games, like this next one, Cincinnati and Cleveland. Cincy benching starters. We already know this. So no Joe Burrow. Everyone's sitting. And on the Cleveland side, Baker finally got his surgery that he should have gotten ages ago. On the Brown side, the only thing here is, do you play the Browns defense at 2,600 or not? It's the most popular play from the DFS angle on DraftKings. On FanDuel, it, pricing wise, there are options too. But they're down at the bottom too. To me, there's nothing else to look at in this game unless you're trying to punt with Harrison Bryant at the tight end spot, because I believe Bryant's at 2,500 on DraftKings. There's nothing else in this game to look at. So we're just going to move on because, again, this is a preseason game. You can try to bet on it if you want, but honestly, who knows what we're going to get out of the Browns in terms of motivation and trying to play hard. Like, Case Keenum could have saved their season weeks ago, in my opinion. At this point, it's just, everyone's phoning it in. I just don't see anything in this game, so pass on it from a betting standpoint. Would pretty much want to avoid it completely from a DFS standpoint, because if the Cleveland defense hits, it hits, and folks are gonna have a good time with that chalk defense. I'm gonna try to find a different spot to work with, but just ugly to look at. Next up, Green Bay and Detroit. Yeah, again, another game where starters going to be sitting. The Packers should not have anyone really playing in this game. I know folks are going to say Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers. There's some incentives that Devontae Adams could hit in terms of production, but Aaron Rodgers, I mean, they already got the touchdown mark. I just don't see any. I just don't see anything here where the Packers are going to be playing. In my opinion, the interest for me in this game is on the Lions side. Yes, I just said it. The interest in this game is on the Lions side. Heaven help us, but this, to me, I think Jared Goff might be my highest owned QB today, which is crazy. But again, preseason, playing backups, Jared Goff's got to put out an impression to save his job, pretty much. I think the Lions are going to draft a QB in this next year's draft. It'd be crazy if they don't draft a QB, in my opinion. I think Jared Goff is in a position to try to pull off a Matt Flynn, try to open some eyes that he can get the job done and throw the ball around. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown in this matchup because he's 6,800. He kind of gets you off some of the chalkier wide receiver plays because Justin Jefferson's going to be highly owned. You're going to get ownership from a couple of dudes this week. It just, in terms of, there's just not that many plays. I mean, all the Arizona Cardinals players are going to be owned. You're not going to be that different playing them. You're still going to get ownership with Cooper Kupp, even though he's almost 10K. I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves here. there's just not that many spots where you're going to get that much different. And instead of playing the guessing game of who's going to win out between DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, in targeting that Arizona Seattle game, not saying I'm going to avoid the game, but if we're only playing a couple of lineups, I would rather that main lineup focus on St. Brown because he's going up against the Packers backups. The Packers already locked things down. I just think that the Browns, I just think that the Lions are going to put up a decent enough fight and put up points on the Packers defense. The Packers, they're going to be up in this game. I just look at it from the standpoint of they're going to start they're going to start peeling back folks regardless because yes, is there a chance the Packers could lose this game and this game ends up being competitive? And this game ended up being competitive. St. Brown is going to be the reason why this game's competitive and they crush. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I just think that one way or the other, if it's one-way traffic with the Packers, you're going to get the garbage time points with St. Brown and Goff. If it's actually competitive, Goff and St. Brown are going to be the reasons why this game is actually close. Really more on the St. Brown side, but Goff is so cheap at 5,400. It still allows you to fit in the Justin Jeffersons of the world, the Jonathan Taylors of the world. I'm not necessarily on the Cooper Kupp train, but again, you could fit them in when you're playing a Jared Goff, and that's where when you're kind of looking at things, you gotta try to find some way of being different. And people are not. The public is not going to be playing the Lions. Let's just be honest with ourselves here. No one would trust a team as bad as the Lions, but that's just it. Jared Goff is going to get less ownership at the QB spot than most players, and I think that's a mistake. And if for some reason we don't get Goff and it's a Tim Boyle game again, okay, he'll be worse, but he'll be even cheaper, and you can fit in. So to me, Jared Goff not making it in is not going to be enough to get me off of this because there's just not that many options of quality quarterbacks who are going to play long enough to justify. And yes, I know folks are going to play Josh Allen. We'll get to that game, but from my standpoint is they're going to get up on the Jets and then kind of pull up by the end of the third quarter. And at the price tag, but we'll get to that spot. So, like I said, I'm not going too crazy over some of these games here, and we're going to have to dumpster dive in a way that we normally wouldn't want to do in some of these matchups. Next up, Indy traveling to Jacksonville to play the Jags. So, Colts need to win this game to secure their playoff spot. So, that means Jonathan Taylor is going to get the rock. Does that mean Jonathan Taylor is going to run for the 266 yards to get to 2,000 that people have been talking up? No. But at 9,300, I think Jonathan Taylor is a far better play than Cooper Kupp is this week. I'm struggling to understand why folks think the Rams are going to. Yes, could the Rams get a worse playoff spot by losing to the 49ers? Certainly. But I don't think the Rams are really. I mean, they're gonna have to play people regardless. I don't think this is the end all be all spot for the Rams to plant their flag. Yes, for the division, yeah, but you don't get the bye anymore. To me, it doesn't make as much sense for some of these teams when you have to play next week now, and you're not going in for everything else to to spend it on a very physical divisional game. Again, the Cowboys just that was mind boggling. I mean, if some of these teams do it, and maybe NFL teams have thought about it, but it's a longer season than ever before. You're more likely to get injured. I just think teams should be more conscientious of the wear and tear on their guys and be fresh. I think the Cowboys are a terrible play next week. I think that was just the worst way they could have gone about it, in my opinion. But yeah. So in my opinion, when you kind of look at this Jacksonville game, I mean, what's the run back? Marvin Jones needs 4 catches to hit a $250,000 performance bonus. So you can do a run back there. But to me, I am playing Jonathan Taylor 9,300. If I'm not playing Jonathan Taylor, I'm probably more than likely going to have Michael Pittman in my lineup. And I think both on DraftKings and FanDuel, Jonathan Pittman should be in your line. I mean, Michael Pittman should be in your lineups if you don't play Jonathan Taylor, because the Colts are projected for 30 points. They got to get there somewhere against the Jags defense. To me, Pittman works with FanDuel because you don't get as much separation from some of the other top wide receiver plays like Jefferson and Kupp versus Pittman, because of the fact that Pittman's not going to get as many receptions. But Pittman is a red zone target, so at 6,600 on FanDuel, to me, I think it's pretty much going to be. I look at it as a case where Pittman makes a ton of sense on both sides. To be perfectly honest, I think. I honestly think that on both sides, it's one where I think because the player prop for the anytime TD is plus 146. That's pretty good, to be honest. For some wide receiver plays, because there's not a ton of guys that are gonna be that close. It's pretty much the same prop as Deontay Johnson, who is more expensive on both sides than Michael Pittman. I'm just saying, some of these pricier wide receiver plays, their props are not that much better than Michael Pittman. So take from that what you will, but the Colts need to win this game. Not that much in terms of a run back on the Jags. Yeah, could you play a Dare Bungawale if you don't want to play Marvin Jones? I guess, but you don't really need to, in my opinion. There's enough value on this slate with so many guys being out. Another game I'm crossing off, Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Ugly weather in the forecast at Baltimore. Yeah, could the Steelers win this game? They won the Swan Song for Big Ben Monday night. They're guaranteed to be at least 500. Could the Steelers still make the playoffs if the Colts lose? Yes. But they'll know the score of the Colts game as they're playing. I'm not banking on that. I just think this is an ugly game. They hate each other. They're going to play hard. My only play from this game would be Ray McLeod, because he's 3,800 on DraftKings. The FanDuel pricing was I believe he was I had this here. Ray. Yeah, Ray was 4,900 on FanDuel. Not bad, to be honest. I think the issue on FanDuel, though, with Ray McLeod is you need him to get multiple catches, and on FanDuel, you need him to get in the end zone. It's not as clean of a play to do it on FanDuel because it's softer price. To me, it's a softer pricing with FanDuel this week than DraftKings. His touchdown prop for Ray McCloud was plus 333, so it's like a long shot to kind of get in there. I wouldn't necessarily do it on FanDuel, but DraftKings, yeah, I could live with a Ray McCloud type play. But yeah, it's not a whole lot. So let's get keep moving because although Baltimore's favored, it's like they're favored by 5 points. Would I bet the Steelers plus 5 as the dog? Not really. Not really interested. Tennessee traveling to Houston. Okay, so this one that's gets interesting. Tennessee locks down the number 1 seed in the AFC with a win. Houston, finishing out the season. Everyone's been talking up Donta Foreman and his revenge narrative. He used to play for the Texans. I don't really understand how you can have a revenge narrative just because it's his old team. Donta Foreman could have been cut so many different ways and kept getting brought back by the Texans. I mean, they obviously liked him. It's just, his contract eventually ran out. I don't necessarily see the narrative that other folks are seeing here where because it's his old team that there's going to be bad blood that he's going for it. I just think that's kind of nonsense. To me, this is a price play. He's 5,700 on DraftKings and he's 6,900 on FanDuel. Both too cheap. The Titans should be up in this game, and then they're going to run the ball out. No, Derrick Henry was not activated, so there's no worry about Derrick Henry being back for this final game to destroy the Texans. I mean, there's just, to me, you play Donta Foreman. Yeah, we know so many guys have gotten hurt this year when we say it's a lock play. This isn't a lock play. It's just, this is a high floor play. Cash game builds are going to have Donta Foreman all over the place. To me, there's not really much for reason to get off of Donta Foreman. And then, in terms of the other pieces, you like Brandon Cooks on the run back for the Texans. Yes, he has some performance bonuses that he can get to as well with catches. People were talking up Rex Burkhead because he needs 100 yards to get 120K bonus. I mean, could get it in garbage time. I don't think he gets it normally in a standard script today against the Titans. So, yeah, I mean, to me, the play here is, can the Texans cover? If the Texans cover and keep this to a single digit loss, this is a print spot in terms of salary because it means Cooks or Burkhead got there. You also have Brevin Jordan as a punt at 2,700 at the tight end spot. It means the Texans put up points. This total was at 43. Again, there were low totals throughout this week that I think where you can get yourself different is if you're playing some of the Texans, if you're playing the Lions, that's how you're going to be different off of folks who are just jamming in the Jeffersons and the Jonathan Taylors of the world. There are ways of getting different on this slate. You just have to play some teams you don't necessarily like to play. Next up, we got my lowly Giants hosting the Washington football team. Washington favored by a touchdown. The line's at 6.5. Scratch that. So just shy of a touchdown. Listen, Giants are terrible. Jake Fromm is in at QB because Mike Lennon has to get wrist surgery. Jake Fromm is worse than Mike Lennon. That's all you need to know. This Giants team is terrible. I've talked about this at length. It's abject disaster doesn't begin to cover this team and the organization as a whole. That being said, Washington, not that much better either, but you can play the Washington defense at 3,100. I don't think the Giants are scoring 10 points in this game. I don't see how the Giants are scoring 10 points in this game. Just being honest. This over is at 38. I don't see how the Giants are scoring 10 points in this game. Someone has to explain to me how the Giants are scoring 38 in this game. Or going to score enough to get to 38. Because I don't see Washington being good enough to score 28. I think the under is in play here. Because I think both of these teams are terrible. I just don't like Washington has underachieved while being an average team. The Giants are just awful for a number of ways, and they're not well coached. No matter how many times Joe Judge says they're holding guys accountable and they're coaching them up, they're probably the worst coaching staff in the NFL, top to bottom. That being said, do I really want to aggressively bet this game? No, not really. But I think the under is in play here. I don't see how the Giants scored more than 10 points in this game. I'm really struggling. We talked about the Giants scoring 15 points a game. If the Giants are scoring 15 a game and the over under 30, like you're expecting Washington to come in above their average when they only average they're averaging under 20 points per game. I don't understand this over under total. I really don't understand this total. So again, be taking the under here. I'll play the Washington defense. You could play Antonio Gibson on DraftKings because he should get some passing game work from Taylor Heineke, who's getting the start. But I like Gibson over the Pats running back situation. To me, I don't think Gibson's getting enough ownership on DraftKings. I know people are going to be on Foreman. I have no problem with the Foreman play, but I do like Gibson over guys like Devin Singletary and Ramondre Stevenson and Sony Michel, all of whom are pricier than Gibson and are coming in at a higher projected ownership. I don't really get why. I mean, maybe I could justify Eli Mitchell, but again, I think Gibson is in a spot here where, again, the Giants are missing multiple tackles. Dexter Lawrence is out. We don't know officially yet, but the word seemed to be that Dexter Lawrence was leaning towards being out. And Leonard Williams obviously is already done for the year. I just see so many issues with the Giants not having the bodies on the defensive line that Gibson should have a good game and is still getting pass catching work. Listen, this is hopeful. The best thing I can say about this game is that it will be over soon enough, and the Giant season will finally be over. Just brutal, just brutal. Ugh. All right, that gets us to the 4:00 window. All the games are at 4:25, obviously, because they're waiting for the results of the 1:00 games just for the playoff implications. So you got Tampa and Carolina, Brady in the I'm so used to saying Brady in the Pats. It's still not the same. Brady and the Bucks should roll here. Tampa -8. I think they cover this one pretty easily. The Carolina quarterbacking situation. The way to beat Tampa is throwing the ball. Does anyone trust Sam Darnold to throw the ball consistently where he's not going to turn it over? Tampa's defense forces turnovers. I don't like trying to pick on the Tampa secondary when I have issues with the quarterback trying to throw the ball on the Tampa. Like Sam Darnold could smash the slate. To be honest, he could smash the slate with DJ Moore. I won't be on it because Sam Darnold has shown that he is a backup QB in this league. And I'm surprised because I thought a lot of it was on Adam Gase, but maybe Gase did ruin him, but Sam Darnold has done himself no favors this year, even before he got hurt. It is what it is. But I don't have a particular feel for the pieces in this Tampa game because I think they pulled the starters by halftime. I think they are up enough. This over-under's at 41. I think Tampa's up by 2 to 3 scores by halftime. And, they'll play a series or two in the third quarter, but not not really going to like pile on the points, but just to milk the clock. Yes, could Brady try to steal the MVP and lock down the MVP by being because in the passer rating, he's currently ranked eighth. He's not in the top five for completion percentage, so he could get that if he just keeps piling on completions today. But doesn't make any sense. Gronk has performance bonuses that people have been tying into, but if he gets 7 catches, he gets 500K. If he gets 85 yards, he gets 500K. Another 500K, and then if he gets 3 touchdowns, that's another 500K. Brady can write Gronk a check. I can't see the Gronk performance incentives being the driver for playing Gronk today at his price tag. Gronk is not cheap, folks. It's pricey to get to Gronk. I mean, it's not as though Gronk, he's 6,300 on DraftKings. You actually have to get the touchdown with Gronk to make it work. And yeah, Tampa doesn't have that many dudes to throw to, but Brady still finds ways to spread the ball around. Keyshawn Vaughn, to me, is the same play as Gronk. There's no running back for Tampa because you don't have Ronald Jones, so you can play Keyshawn Vaughn for 1,000 less on DraftKings, and to me, that's a far safer play than it is Gronk. I mean, that's me personally. I know some folks may disagree with that industry wide, but I don't see the need. John Bates, if we're going back to the Washington game for against the Giants, John Bates to me is the exact same play as Gronk for 3K less, because the Giants are not good at defending the tight end, and you can get touchdown equity with Bates in the red zone against the Giants. I don't see the point in paying up for Gronk because he's 6,300 on DraftKings. He's 6,900. He's 6,300 on DraftKings. He's 7,400 on FanDuel. Meanwhile, you can get Bates for 3K on DraftKings and 4,600 on FanDuel. To me, I think it's pretty much the same play. People are expecting Gronk to score a TD here today. In terms of his touchdown prop, he's minus 106 to score a touchdown today. We haven't seen the Bucs prioritize Gronk in the red zone. Cameron Brate, to me, again, same thing as I'm talking about with John Bates. Like, Cameron Brate is the same chance of getting in the red zone as Gronk, and Cameron Brate's touchdown prop is plus 400. Gronk's minus 100. Brady likes targeting both tight ends in the red zone. He's targeted Brate just as much as Gronk this year in the red zone. I don't get it. I don't get the Gronk narrative today. I love Gronk, but you can't tell me that Gronk is that much more likely to score a TD than Cameron Brate or OJ Howard in the red zone. Like, Brady is spreading the ball around. He's not locking in just to get Gronk the red zone work. That's just not been the case this year. It's just not. So why would today be that much different just because it's the final day of the regular season? It doesn't make sense. So take from that what you will. New England, with still a chance to win the AFC East, playing the Dolphins. Dolphins eliminated from the playoff race, basically, if Indy wins. Dolphins need a ton of help to make the playoffs, and they still have to beat the Pats. I think New England wins this game. This game should be pretty ugly. I don't have the interest in playing the Pats that others do with playing the Pats run game. I don't trust Mac Jones. I don't trust Tua against Bill Belichick. This is a cross-off game for me from a DFS standpoint. I don't have a single play that I actually like in this game that I would trust playing in any of my lineups. And then as far as the line, I think Miami +7 is the play here. I don't see the Pats being able to hang a touchdown plus on the Dolphins for a win. So I would just take the Dolphins or just tease this game down with some other plays today. So like you could tease it down with that Miami game. You could tease this one down with like New Orleans or a couple other spots here. I don't see the need to force it with some of these plays. It just doesn't make sense in my opinion. I think Miami plays hard and makes it ugly. So, there's not much of a need to try to force the week 18 plays. I just don't see it. I just don't see kind of going into the slate today to kind of force a narrative that doesn't make any sense. So let's see, what else do we have for these 4:00 games? New Orleans and Atlanta. Only interested in this game from a DFS perspective. New Orleans favored by 4 points. Who knows what we're gonna get with these teams? I do like the pricing on Taysom Hill. He's 6,200. If you don't feel comfortable playing Jared Goff, you can pay for Taysom. It's a spot where both he and Alvin Kamara could work well together in, because Atlanta, you're gonna give them yards on the ground. You can scramble. You can throw on them. I think the run back that makes the most sense here is Russell Gage being in the slot. Kyle Pitts is already nicked up as it is, so I don't see the need for Atlanta to throw out Pitts when he's already banged up this year. And effectively, they haven't used him all that well either, so I just think that this game lends more towards lends more towards Russell Gage being used in the slot against the Saints. Lattimore should not be covering him. I just think that it makes more sense to kind of go in that direction. Jets and Buffalo. Jets should get smoked here, but we've seen this spot before where the Bills, they should smoke a team and they don't. A lot of people are on Josh Allen, and rightfully so. You could throw on this Jets secondary. This is the same spot as the Bucs were in last week. This Jets secondary is terrible. Stephon Diggs can have a monster day, and he still has some incentives that he can get. If he gets 6 catches, he has a near $700,000 bonus coming his way. If he gets 230 yards, he gets another. Yeah, so I think the bonus was $658,000. So 2 separate bonuses: $658,000 for 6 receptions, $658,000 for 230 plus yards. The 6 catches I think is very doable. The 230 plus yards, not as much, but this Jet secondary is bad enough that if you want to prioritize Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs today, it's not the craziest thing in the world to go for that narrative. On the Jet side, you could still go back to Braxton Berrios. The Jets have prioritized using him. Berrios is still, it's not a crazy price. Wait a second. Oh, they did rule out Berrios. Oh, my mistake. So technically, this actually goes back to the old formula for the Jets. When they get blown out, play Jamison Crowder, because Crowder's supposed to be back today. He's actually priced cheaper than Berrios would have been. Berrios was $4,900 when I was looking at him during the week. Crowder's coming in at $4,600. So, yeah, I don't see much else that you would play on the Jets side of things. To be perfectly honest, they seem to have moved on from Denzel Mims. I just don't see anything else that you would want to mess around with today, to be perfectly honest. So, yeah, let's keep moving. We've got the Rams hosting the 49ers. The Niners can still make the playoffs. They're playing for it. You know, to me, this comes down to, do you want to pay up for Cooper Kupp? I I don't, but if you want to play Cooper Kupp, to me, the way to go about it is you play Jimmy G, who's a lot cheaper than Stafford, uh, pricing wise, and then you can play George Kittle as a run back. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world that George Kittle goes off today if Cooper Kupp has a big day, because you need the 49ers to actually make this more of a shootout. If this becomes more of a grinded out punt fest where both teams are running the ball, the over unders have 44. This game could hit the under if both teams are running the ball effectively and just shortening the possessions. I don't necessarily see that many routes for Cup to hit value, in my opinion. That's why I like JT a lot, so much more than Cooper Kupp today. I just think the Niners are going to run with Eli Mitchell, take the ball out of Jimmy G's hands, and then you're not going to get as much time for Cooper Kupp to hit value at his price tag. I just think it's a harder sell. But I mean, other DFS plays, the Rams spread it out enough where it just makes it a hard sell. Eli Mitchell certainly in play at the running back spot, but you have Donta Foreman in the mix there. I already let you know my feelings on the pricing situation for Gibson. I like Gibson more than Mitchell, but it's not the craziest thing in the world. But yeah, I just think this game plays slower than people are letting on. And then finally, we got Arizona and Seattle. Again, Arizona try to hold off the Rams for the division title, so they got to beat Seattle. And what is likely Russell Wilson's last game for the Seahawks, if these trade rumors are to be believed, who knows? But it's the highest total on the slate at 48. All the wide receivers for Arizona are in play today. So, if they're healthy enough to play, if you get the all clear Rondale Moore, everyone is in play today for the Arizona wide receiver core between Kirk, Green, Rondale Moore, Antoine Wesley. They're all in play. Zach Ertz also in play. You can mix and match. The problem I have is on the Seattle side, because we've seen the Seattle side falter numerous times when it comes to build. They got there last week because the Lions defense basically was a no-show for that game. And that's why I think the Packers pound the Lions early, pull their starters, and then you get all the run back with Amon-Ra St. Brown and getting garbage time points. So that's why, again, I like the Green Bay and Detroit game for a completely different reason. But for the Seattle team, that was the first time they got there with the passing game all year. Why am I chasing that game last week with DK Metcalf? And it was just DK. Lockett did not get there. And it's been the story where one guy gets there, the other guy doesn't. I would rather play Rashad Penny and just live with the consequences. Yeah, well, in afternoon only slates, will I play Seattle? Yes, but I'm not chasing that on a 15 game on a slate this large. There's just too many games. There's too many games here where we've got other teams, and yes, we've crossed off a number of games, but there are other spots with stud players that we can make it work. I mean, 13 games, and we have to force ourselves into playing the last game, kicking off with the highest. So I just think this game is so chalky at this point. You don't need to force it. You don't need to force it because we have other spots to chase, and people will make James Conner a thing because there's no Chase Edmonds today because of injury. Surprise, surprise. Just two guys who cannot stay healthy. More than likely, I don't trust James Conner staying healthy throughout. I would even say you could play Benjamin as a punt and bank on James Conner being banged up at some point in the game. If we can't play Chase Edmonds, with Chase Edmonds being ruled out, just have like one punt lineup where you have Benjamin banking on James Conner getting nicked up during the course of the game and it going down. And you have 4K there. Again, you can game stack it in a number of different ways. I just don't think James Conner should be part of your game stack. I mean, you can try to game stack it and force DK Metcalf and lock it in there together. I think that's a mistake. I think you can pick one of them, play Russ, play some Arizona guys, so like Ertz and Kirk. But I think you can game stack a different way, and then if you really want to punt one lineup, you can line up a lineup or two with Benjamin if you're doing 50 lineups or so. I'm not doing 50 lineups today, I don't think, just because to me there's just so much randomness with this and so many adjustments we're probably gonna have to make due to injury news if we get news that breaks a certain way, that it's just not worth it. So pretty much laid out the slate where I'm wanting to target. I want to go after this Green Bay game. I want to go after this Vikings Chicago game. I don't have as much interest in Seattle, Arizona as other people do. That's just me. I think you can pick on the Giants' offensive woes and just play Washington's defense. I'm not trying to get too crazy and reinvent the wheel here. I think there's a clear enough example of who is outright terrible, who quit weeks ago, and then we kind of pick on those spots and call it a day. If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Not much else you can control about it. But let's try to finish the season off strong here and then get ready for the postseason. So that's going to do it for me. Good luck to all of you today, and until next time, have a good one.
Thanks for listening to the Fantasy Throwdown Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all other major outlets.